Hi everybody, Shanna with Apogee the Moon, and I am bringing you a weekly forecast for January 18th through the 24th. So this week, I do have a couple of announcements that I'm really excited about. So I am going to be posting this on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to be posting this on a Facebook page called the Lilith Society. So it's a collaboration between the beautiful women there and myself, and we are all bringing something very unique and very different to the table. And the link to the Facebook group is below. And also, I am going to link the TikTok, which is new to me. So I'm trying to figure that one out. I will link that below as well to the Lilith Society. And then there's also a Instagram page. So I will also link that below as well. And like I said, I'm posting this on in that Facebook group or business page, I guess. And I'm really super excited about it, and I can't wait to see what happens. So yeah, let's jump in. Okay, so I will shoot. I gotta share my screen here. I gotta do every week. Forgot to change the date on that one. All right, so this, like I said, this is from January 18th through the 24th. And so on Tuesday, we have the sun moving into Aquarius. On Wednesday, the following day, we do have Mars coming conjunct Uranus. Mercury will be trining the North Node. We will have the second quarter square. So for anyone that doesn't know or follow the moon around the zodiac, after each new moon, roughly 7 days later, there is, roughly, because the moon takes 2.5 to 3 days to move through a sign. What happens is you have the first square of the moon. So I think you can see this, right? Yeah. So if you look up at your screen, you can see I have like this little T, right? So this is when the moon is now visible and it is now shaped like a half circle. So there is action from the new moon that either needs to be taken or is taken, or there is pressure of some kind that is building up to the full moon a week after this. So I'm going to start talking about that in the videos as well. And then we also have on Saturday, we have Mars square Jupiter, Venus sextile Neptune, and the Sun conjunct Saturn. So what all of this means together, we'll start with Tuesday. On the 19th, the sun does move into Aquarius, and this is considered its fall position. So the sun is now in the opposite sign of its rulership. Its rulership is Leo, and in Aquarius, it doesn't function at its best. The sun loves the creativity of the 5th house, but in the 11th house, this is about other people or being part of a group of other people. So it's about reaching for your goals instead of showcasing your talents, because the sun is all about expression and talents and fun and play and joy. And the 11th house is about the people that you associate with, the people that you are, the groups that you are a part of with those people, as well as your hopes, your wishes, your dreams, your gains, which would be the financial gains from the 10th house. So the sun doesn't necessarily function as well there. The sun in Aquarius is, it has to be focused on other people. And there's a need to fit in and conform to societal standards or to the standards of the groups and associations that you make. So it's conforming to be part of something bigger, right? So that's why it's in its fall position, because normally the sun is focused on joy and expression and play and shining bright like this, the life-giving force that it is. So there's that. And then, you know, there can be an alien feel in Aquarius because Aquarius does rule aliens. There's like an otherness about it. Very future thinking, but also very dogmatic and very stubborn. But also very weird and different and unique in their own way, but very stubborn about it. Like they're not going to conform to anything except for what they want to conform to. Okay. So there's that. And then Mars will be conjunct Uranus. Apparently I can't speak tonight. I'm actually doing this at night. It's 10:30. Just got the kids to bed. So I'm trying to get this out on Friday, which is what I wanted to do anyway. So we're just doing it a little backwards from what I normally do it, because I slept in this morning. I've been super tired since this new moon. So Mars conjunct Uranus, this is one of shocking change, rashness, extreme temperament as well, twists, turns, disruptions. You know, you do have to remember that Mars is the planet of action. Mars is the planet of willpower. Mars is the planet of, you know, heat and temper, you know, and very intense in cases. And in Taurus, it does take a little while to build up, but in Taurus, once Mars is, you know, ready to knock down those walls, it's like the charging bull, right? Like you got to think Taurus is the sign of the bull. It's, you know, and what happens when a bull starts charging? There's no stopping it. It's just going to keep going and it's going to plow right through you. Uranus, on the other hand, which is what Mars is coming into a conjunction with, is the great liberator. It's the freedom seeker. It's the unorthodox and the revolutionary. And, you know, Uranus does rule Aquarius, which is an air sign. So Mars does rule Aries, which is a fire sign. They are in duplicity, which means they're both very masculine, very action oriented. So with Mars conjunct Uranus, this can see a buildup of action being taken. And, you know, together this would be, you know, Uranus is kind of fueling the fire for Mars. And Uranus, you know, lights Mars up, it dials it up, and it kind of gets that blaze out of control. And there's really no turning back from this aspect. So once, you know, once things get moving, once things get rolling, it kind of has a life of its own and it takes on its own momentum, its own force. So this is very much like overdrive as a aspect. So, you know, there's really no putting baby in a corner on this one. So with this aspect, you can forget listening to anyone in power, forget listening to anyone in any type of authority. It's pretty much you saying, you know, take the high road, authority, take the high road, you know, powers that be, whatever. And, you know, in a certain area of life, wherever that is showing up for you. And, you know, this could be maybe the outside pressures coming in, right, with that Jupiter and Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. Maybe this is the outside influence coming in and really putting pressure on you, and you're just gonna be like, no, I'm done, you know. Or this could be you taking action in such a way as to kind of stop that kind of thing, right? Like it can go either way, but either way, it's tension, it's fire, it's heat, and it's very revolutionary in the aspects that are being made. And, you know, yeah, we'll keep going. So, you know, the energy of liberation, of freedom, of revolution, and, you know, this can see pushback on even both sides with Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. It's kind of like that powder keg that's ready to blow. Now, on the same day, Mercury, which is the planet of communication, of thoughts, of short distance travel, cleverness, and several other things, is making a trine to the North Node in its home sign of Gemini. So on this day, especially on Inauguration Day, this to me kind of stood out as, several things are happening at the same time on a specific day, especially here in the United States, when we do have, the inauguration of the new president of the United States of America, and, the subsequent issues that have led up to this point, and including that new moon conjunct Pluto. I can't help but feel that there's going to be some type of communication on this day about local communities, about local municipalities. There could be news of travel. There could be news maybe from the airlines even. Communication of some kind is going to be coming out either on the restrictions that are happening or themes surrounding children's schools, early education, shocking communications about specific people. Because when you look at the charts of the new, president and vice president, and I don't want to be like too political, but Kamala Harris is a Gemini ascendant. And so, maybe there's going to be something that's going to be going on with her on that day, because it is coming into the North Node is in a very close conjunction with her ascendant. So there could be some type of communication about that as well. And also on this day, there is that second quarter square of the moon and the sun. So we had the new moon in Capricorn, which is a cardinal sign, which is a sign of, starting things. Cardinal is the first energy there, you know what I mean? So it's that birthing something new into the world. When we hit this the second quarter square, when we hit that square, when, it's like 5 days past, roughly 5 to 7 days past the new moon, we have what's the first square of saying, okay, what action do you need to be taking for this new moon? This so happens that this square is happening, instead of being in a cardinal energy, this is actually happening in the fixed energy of Aquarius and Taurus, because the sun has moved into Aquarius and the moon has moved into Taurus. So it's very much fixed energy of stubbornness, whether or not, you choose to accept what's going on, or you choose to accept your mission at this time. It's things are gonna happen. I feel like I'm referencing a lot of movies lately. So while the moon on this day, is in a square, it's a hard aspect to the sun. Both the sun and the moon are adding their energies to this current square going on between Jupiter and Saturn and Mars and Uranus. So with this square, what's happening is there's going to be action being taken, or things that are going to emotionally disrupt, especially because the moon will be coming into a conjunction with Mars and Uranus. It could very well disrupt, your emotional balance. And so feeding any tensions of the ego kind as well, because the sun is technically our egos. And, be aware that we are not our egos, and we are much deeper and much more profound than, the flash in the pan ego tantrums that can happen at times. And, no guilt, no shame. It's just sometimes we just get completely out of control with our emotions, and they completely overtake us. And we are so fired up and so passionate about something that later on down the line, if we're being, reflective and trying to understand what it is coming up with that new moon, the full moon in Leo in a couple of weeks, this is going to see us kind of reevaluating what it is that we're doing and where we're going. Mercury also is in shadow. I just want you to be aware. So there will be some revisions, some re-edits, some redoing of some things, depending on where Aquarius is showing up for you in your chart. So there is that as well. On Saturday, Mars will come into the exact square with Jupiter. So honestly, if I could flash a neon sign saying slow down, I would. This is slow. You need to slow down. You need to utilize that Saturn energy in Aquarius and that authoritative energy in Aquarius to do things the right way and not the fast way, because Mars coming into an exact square while it's still in a tight conjunction with Uranus can see people blowing things out of proportion still. I mean this is just a few days later, and blowing things up and really not thinking before they're speaking, not thinking before they're doing. Granted, it depends on how fired up you've become with that conjunction to Uranus, depending on where this is in your chart and what Mars rules and what Jupiter rules in your chart, which house. Mars in Taurus is not as fast as it can be, so I think this is a good thing. People will be a little bit slower, a little bit more grounded, a little bit more down to earth. But that Jupiter energy is really kind of expanding on that and saying, hey, let's get this all fired up again. So, the angry charging bull is the thing with this. Now, adding to the slowdown and really moving through the energy and understanding all of the avenues and the ways that we can put form and structure into our lives. This doing things the fast way and overstepping the bounds or biting off more than you can chew isn't necessarily the right thing to do with this energy. Trying to curb the impulses, the short term, while it may be fun and exciting, the energy will pass, and it is passing. It's starting to, Jupiter is starting to pull away, and, Mars is starting to pull away from Uranus. So we will be left with just the raw energy of the Saturn and Uranus square in a little while. The Sun and Saturn also on Saturday are coming into a conjunction. So what this is this, while the Sun might be in its detriment, coming into a conjunction with Saturn offers that structured, more practical, dedicated approach to looking at what it is that you're bringing from the future to now, what it is that you are future thinking and making it your reality. And because Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius, Saturn does have more power here. And so you can see the more Saturnian structures of your life holding the more leonine or solar energies of your life a little more accountable, where it's kind of like you need to grow up a little bit more and take those next steps into what it is that you need to level up on, right? Because the Sun conjunct Saturn is a level up energy, where it's up until now maybe you've been kind of playing it a little bit and not really doing your due diligence. Now with the Sun conjunct Saturn, it's like a kind of like a wake up call and saying, okay, yeah, this is where I've been kind of slacking off. This is what I need to do differently. And this is where I need to take the next steps. So putting in the best effort that you can, and the best effort that you can for the group or for humanity as a whole. So that is the general energy for the upcoming week. And so I will start the PowerPoint and we will go through each sign. So for Aries and for Aries rising, the Sun in Aquarius and the ongoing square to, from Mars and Uranus and in Taurus and Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius, this is happening in your 11th house of your social circle, your social status, the friends and groups and organizations that you associate with by choice. Friends being the operative word. in square with, Mars and Uranus in your second house. There's definitely something going on with how it is that you're making your money, what it is that you're finding value in. This could be maybe someone in your friends group really fires you up or is really trying to, put the pressure on you to conform to something. To maybe squash your creativity a little bit until you can't do that, when in reality it's maybe they don't realize that what it's doing is it's hitting your sense of self-worth in that second house. So it's not just the money and material things that you have with the second house, it's also, that that sacral chakra energy of that sense of worthiness and being worthy in this lifetime, right? It's that kind of energy. So definitely, with Mercury being in the 11th house coming into a trine with the North Node, maybe it's time to put voice to, because your third house is thinking, speaking, and communicating. Maybe it's time to put voice to and talk to, the friend groups and say, hey, this is where you're really, this is really affecting me, and it's really affecting my sense of worth and my sense of value in this world. So there could be that going on. As well as there could be some type of unfoldment with the eclipses that we had in Gemini and Sagittarius. With Mercury coming into a trine with the North Node, that also means that it's in sextile with the South Node. So there could be some type of some type of karmic communication that comes in that has to do with, your friend groups and how it is that that's going to serve you moving forward with those eclipses that are happening in your third and your 11th house over the course of the next couple of years. For Taurus and for Taurus rising, the sun in Aquarius, moving into that, now it's like triple stellium going on in Aquarius, and the stellium going on in Taurus. This is happening from your 10th to your third, or from your 10th to your first, or from your first to your 10th, depending on how you want to look at it. So the faster moving planets are the ones that make aspects to the slower moving planets. So you do have Mars in your first house, Taurus. And so you've had Uranus here for a couple of years now, shaking things up, shaking you out of complacency, making all kinds of drastic changes depending on where this is showing up for you and what degree your ascendant is at, or if you have any personal planets there. And so, with Mars here, this is you being fired up. This is you getting, passionate and either angry or emotional or fired up and like ready to take charge and move forward with something that has to do with your 10th house, because that's where Jupiter is right now, right? So Mars is making the aspect to Jupiter up in your 10th. Excuse me. And what this can see is this can see you changing what it is that you are known for out in the world. This can see you making, very fired up, very passionate. This could see you also creating arguments with people in positions of power and authority. And because you feel justified and you feel validated with this is like you're with that Mercury and trine to Gemini in your second house, this could see you having conversations this week about your sense of worth, or about your sense of value, or about the money and materials that you want to make of your own volition, right? Like the money that you make physically, you yourself make money, right? So that's the first house is you, your body. Your second house is the money that you make using your body, whether or not that's working for someone else or being an entrepreneur or anything like that. This is the money that you bring in. This is the money that you bring home. And this is also your sense of self-worth, your sense of value, what you personally value in the world that you want to see more of. So there could be communications coming in from your 10th house to, to add value, to add money. And, we had the eclipses in your second and your 8th house access. So what this could mean is that there's communication concerning, because it's making a trine to the North Node. This is making, this is working on your sense of self-worth, your sense of value, and maybe even news of something coming down the pipeline in terms of career and how much more money you're going to be making in general. So we are doing that. So for Gemini and for Gemini rising, the sun in Aquarius and the ongoing square to Taurus, you know, this is happening in your 9th house, and this is happening in your 12th house. So there's something, maybe some Gemini risings are deciding that enough is enough. You're going to move, and you're going to move countries, and you're going to move far, far away from where it is that you are right now. That's for some Gemini rising people. That's creating that tension in that 9th and in that 12th house of like, where do I move? How can I get as far away from people as I possibly can? You know, or maybe this is also some pressure and whatnot, you know, with higher education and those 12th house themes. Maybe you decide that you're going to go back to school to become a doctor, or you're going to go to that boot camp training to become a CO, you know, a corrections officer, right? Maybe you're going to go back to school as a Gemini rising to become a yoga practitioner or therapist of some kind, something to do something that is going to take you away from the world. So there's going to be some fiery, passionate things that are going to be done this, you know, this week, or maybe things come to a head and come to a boiling point. And then there's also going to be something, you know, towards the end of the week with Mercury coming into that trine with the North Node in Gemini that has to do with communication from that 9th house, maybe from a foreigner, maybe from a higher educational institution, about you, or maybe you are communicating with that higher, you know, institution and whatnot. But there's going to be communication of some kind coming in that has to do with education, that has to do with travel, that has to do with, you know, your higher belief systems of God, the universe, the world around you. And, you know, those soapbox moments where you step up and you say, no, enough is enough. And this is where you take the stand. So there could be that as well for Gemini and for Gemini rising. For Cancer and for Cancer rising, the sun in Aquarius, and with the ongoing square to the planets, you know, the Aquarius planets and the Taurus planets going on. This is happening in your 8th and your 11th house. And so this can see, I mean, Mars is the one that's making the aspects this week, and then the sun coming into a conjunction with Saturn in your 8th house. But Mars in the 11th, this could see your friend groups or the groups and associations that you are a part of get fired up. This could see online communication becoming very fired up, and this could affect, you know, I mean, maybe this is also a communication coming in, because the 8th house is, you know, it's death, it's trauma, it's inheritances, it's taxes, it's insurances, it's other people's money. And for the people out there, you know, the Cancer risings or Cancer sun or Cancer moon, you know, men and women that are sex workers, there could be something going on that is affecting you with your social networks, with the money that you're making from that 10th house, because the 11th house, which is Taurus for you, is the money that you make from that career, from what it is that you're known for out in the world. So there could be some power struggles with that 8th house. There could be, you know, maybe the 11th house, because Mars is coming into a square with Jupiter. Maybe there is, you know, an angry friend or an angry group, or, you know, even just a person in general that is more martial in nature, or even, you know, a law enforcement person. There could be some, you know, some very intense situations popping up for Cancer rising people, sun, moon, You know, because the eighth house is very intense. It's not a house that is very easy at all. It's a very intense house. So there could be arguments and disputes between your friend groups and the groups and associations, and you know, money that is owed you, or money that's coming in, or you know, power struggles of a different kind. With Mercury, though, Mercury in your eighth house making a trine to your 12th house, this could be communication of something to do, right, with that 12th house. And maybe there's news of something or someone that has passed for some Cancer rising people, or there's news of, you know, some type of spiritual or you know, uh, retreat type of thing, communication about a retreat maybe that you're attending, or maybe in, you know, with the 11th house involved in the mix with the squares, it could be, you know, an online community, an online retreat, and you hear something about it, and it's really intense communication coming in, you know, with that eighth house. Or it's you know, it's just communication in general, because right now the nodes are transiting your 12th and your 6th house, which is, you know, the 12th house is where it is that you go for solitude and seclusion, and then the 6th house is your, you know, it's your job, it's your daily routines, it's, you know, it's money that you get by showing up in service to either a company or another person. So there could be, you know, some intense communication surrounding things like that as well. Lots of intensity for Cancer this week. For Leo and for Leo rising, with the sun in your 7th house, you know, adding it, this is your chart ruler, Leo. So the sun in Aquarius in your 7th house is really putting your focal point on your relationships with other people. But with the square going on up in Taurus, there could be, you know, maybe someone in a position of power and authority over you, you know, comes in and has, you know, some intense things to say about what it is that, you know, some contract or some agreement, or maybe there's a client that you're talking to that kind of gets really frustrated with you. Or there's, you know, there's disputes going on between maybe your significant other, because 7th house does represent significant others as well. And you know, what is that you're doing out in the world, maybe there's some impatience going on, where maybe you were trying to take the initiative to get things moving and to get things going with that 10th house, and you know, there's arguments and disputes, or maybe you're focusing on your relationships a little too much and kind of neglecting, and so then there's this outside influence coming in as well. With Mercury being in trine the North Node in Gemini, this is happening from your 7th to your 11th house. So there could be, you know, when Mercury, the planet that rules Gemini, comes into a trine with a point like the North Node, what this is doing is this is actually activating, it's, you know, it's not a conjunction, so it's not like a full-on activation, but it is support. So maybe there's something that happened at the eclipse that you weren't really clear on, and there's things that you're kind of trying to figure out. There's an unfoldment that's happening with Mercury coming into a trine with the North Node, especially because it's still at 19 degrees or it's at 18 degrees. So it's still within that eclipse realm of where it was during the eclipses. And so this is an activation of that in a harmonious way, possibly working with some people in that 11th house to be able to, you know, gain more clients or to do things of that nature as well. So for Virgo and for Virgo rising, with the sun moving into Aquarius, adding its energy to, you know, the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction that's still going on, and starting to square, you know, the moon has moved into Taurus, and now, so we have that square going on, and we also have the Mars and Uranus conjunction going on, and that the squares to those planets is happening, you know, in Aquarius in your 6th house to your 9th house. So maybe something comes up at work, right? Because the 6th house is your job, is your daily routines, it's where you go every day to make your money. coming into a square, or the squares happening in your ninth house from your sixth to your ninth. This is, maybe something happens and you have to travel for work. Maybe in that travel, because we do have Mercury coming into a trine with the North Node in Gemini, this is your 10th house. So maybe while it is that you're traveling for work or what's going on with work, maybe there's communication about either a boss in a position of power and authority, or an advancement that is possibly going to come your way in terms of being in a position of power and authority and moving into that North Node in that 10th house. There's a natural unfoldment that's happening with Mercury and trine to the North Node in Gemini, where it pretty much has stayed, the North Node has stayed around 19 degrees for a while now. So Mercury is making a trine to the North Node and a sextile to the South Node. So there's a natural letting go process that needs to happen to move up into that 10th house, where these eclipses have been going on and will go on for a little while longer for you. So there's another unfoldment that's happening with your career this week. So for Libra and for Libra rising, the sun in Aquarius, moving into Aquarius, the moon moving into Taurus, adding their energies to the square energy between Aquarius and Taurus, is happening from your 5th house to your 8th house. So what this means is that there could be some very intense power struggles around children. There could be really intense power struggles, that are affecting what it is that you take joy in, what it is that you find joy in, because the 5th house is all about joy. And for you, the 5th house it's Uranus ruled, it's Aquarius. So for you, the 5th house is really that fun and that exciting, time that you can be quirky and unique and different and express who you are with unabashed, pleasure. So with the square happening though to the 8th house, this could be, maybe you're spending a little bit too much money down there in that 5th house, having a little too much fun, and it comes time to pay the Pied Piper. With the 8th house is other people's money though, and it is the house of, trauma. It is the house of initiations. It is death, taxes, inheritances, other people's money, power struggles, psychological issues as well. And the 5th house, does have that connotation of sex. So maybe, with this ongoing square, there's been very intense, very intimate moments with you and a loved one, in terms of like a love affair or a romantic partner of some kind. With Mercury coming into a trine with the North Node though, from the 5th to the 9th, this could be communication that comes in from afar, about 9th house things, whether or not it's education or it's moving, or it's, depending on how your chart is set up too. This 5th to 9th house trine, Mercury is trining from Aquarius, which is, it's future thinking. So Mercury's really all in the what ifs and the possibilities of what can we do to make this happen now. And the 9th house is, that higher viewpoint of, okay, your soapbox, your higher education, your certificate programs, foreign people, foreign travel, education of any kind, teaching, maybe even for a Libra rising particular. So there's definitely some type of communication that's coming in surrounding that 9th house theme of moving or education for you, and a letting go of some of those 3rd house things of like having to be in the community that you're in to make that big move, to make that big plan. So that is this week for Libra and for Libra rising. For Scorpio and for Scorpio rising, the sun in Aquarius moving into Aquarius, the moon moving into Taurus, adding their energies to this ongoing square with Aquarius and Taurus is happening from your 4th house to your 7th house. So this could be, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes for Scorpio risings, having to do with relationship, having to do with contractual agreements, having to do with, business partnerships, having to do with clients, even having to do with marriage partners, having to do with people that we're very close to, the close personal one-on-one relationships that we have in this lifetime. So, the sun rules your 10th house. So this could be you working behind the scenes in partnership with someone on something to move forward with your career. For some Scorpio risings. For other Scorpio risings, I mean, this could be, working on relationship with a significant other, maybe working on uncovering some very deep hidden truths about your ancestry or about, who you want to be coming home and who you come home to with that square to the 7th house. Maybe the person, that you come home to every day isn't the person you want to be coming home to every day. So there could be, some tension, some arguments, some disputes there, or maybe, there's something going on with your partner's resources as well, because Mercury in the 4th house is making a trine aspect to that North Node in Gemini in the 8th house. And so Mercury coming into a trine, with the North Node in its home sign. This is where we had the eclipses a little while ago in Gemini and Sagittarius. So this has to do with your 2nd and your 8th house axis, which is your money and other people's money. So there's definitely some communication that's going to be coming in that has to do with other people's money. That maybe has to do with taxes, inheritances, death, insurance. Maybe there's some very intense conversations about something to do with the home as well, because, Mercury is in your 4th house right now. So that is for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising. For Sagittarius and for Sagittarius rising, the sun and the moon moving into Aquarius and Taurus, adding to this stellium that's going on in Aquarius and Taurus, the square stelliums that are going on. This is happening from your 3rd house to your 6th house. So there's definitely some communication that's going to be happening surrounding work. There could be some very intense arguments happening at work. There could be some very intense things that are happening at work that have to do with, like, maybe you're getting shuffled around at your job, and there's communications that come in that say, well, you're going to have to do swing shifts for the next 3 months or something like that, right? Like, it's something that's going to there's going to be pressure, and there's going to be very heated, very charged discussions about it. This could be, maybe there's an issue happening in your community which prevents you from getting to work. If you do go to work, if you're not in a place that is on lockdown, if maybe this has to do with your vehicles and your daily routine. Maybe something happens to a vehicle and you're not able to leave your house or anything like that because you can't move about, and so it really disrupts your routine and your daily habits and whatnot. There could also be communication for some Sag risings coming in about about their health and their wellness. So there could be that as well. There could be news around health and wellness. With Mercury coming into a trine with the North Node in Gemini, there could be some type of communication that you yourself are doing, or there's a communication coming in from a contractual relationship, like a business partner or a client or something like that, that feels very fated, that feels very karmic, and there's something going on. There's negotiations that are happening, because this, to me, with Mercury coming into a trine with the North Node in Gemini, where the North Node is still at the place it was when we had the eclipses, this to me is an unfoldment of some truth that we weren't able to access before. So there could be information surrounding partnerships that comes to light and comes to you this week as well for Sagittarius rising. For Capricorn and for Capricorn rising, the sun moving into Aquarius and the moon moving into Taurus to add their energies to these square aspects that are already going on. This is happening from in your 2nd and in your 5th house. So there could be some type of expenditure surrounding children. It could be expenditure surrounding fun. It could be an expenditure surrounding joy. It could be an expenditure for a romantic partner, like a boyfriend girlfriend type situation or love affair that's going on. So those are some of the themes with the second house. The second house has to do with your money and your materials and your possessions. It also has to do with your sense of self-worth. So there could be arguments and disputes that happen with either a child or with a lover that really affects that, that second chakra, that sacral chakra of your sense of self-worth. Maybe they just completely degrade you and you just feel worthless, this week. However, with Mercury in a trine with the North Node in your sixth house, there is some type of communication that's happening either from you, or there's some type of communication that's really going to give your self-confidence a boost. And it's going to be surrounding your daily routines. It's going to be surrounding, the acts of service that you do, like what you do for your job, not necessarily your career. That would be 10th house, but your sixth house is where it is that you're showing up in service of other people, whether or not that's working for a company or working for another person, or just doing things for your friends and family. Like how you show up of service is as unique as you. This is also your health. This is also your daily routines and the things that you do every single day. So there's some type of fated, some type of karmic information that's coming to light with that Mercury in trine to the North Node, where it still has been since we had those eclipses. So there's definitely an unfoldment that's happening in terms of the communication with that Gemini North Node and the unfoldment of information that we weren't privy to at the time of the eclipses. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, the sun in Aquarius and the moon moving into Taurus with this ongoing square, and adding their energies to the stelliums. This is happening in your first house, which is you and your physical body, to your fourth house, which is what it is that you're coming home to. This could be arguments and disputes in the home with you and whoever you come home to. This could be, this could also be growth potential of you deciding, this is what I want to come home to. This is who I am, for one, with especially with Saturn and Jupiter, especially because this is a co-chart ruler for you, coming into that first house, and you deciding, this is who I am, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to come home to every single day, because this is how it is. Now, Mercury in trine with the North Node from your first house to your fifth house, maybe there's a lover that is, there's communication from a lover, and maybe they need a place to stay. And so you're like, all right, well, let's move in together. Then you come stay with me. Or, because it is your fourth house and it is your fifth house and it is your first house, which is you. Or maybe there is some type of communication or some type of meeting that happens, with Gemini in the first, communication happening with your fifth house, with that North Node where we had those eclipses back, in Sagittarius and in Gemini. And so, there's a natural unfoldment that's happening in your fifth house of lovers, of children, of play, of joy, of the things that you love to do just because you love to do them. So there could be some type of unfoldment, some type of communication that happens surrounding those fifth house themes at the end of this week as well. For Pisces, finally Pisces, with the sun moving into Aquarius and the moon moving into Taurus to add their energies to this ongoing square, this is happening in your 12th house and in your third house. So there could be, behind the scenes communications that's happening. Maybe there's a sibling is communicating something about an addiction, right? Third house siblings, 12th house addictions. Maybe there's some stuff going on behind the scenes that is going to require you to, move within your community, but maybe you need to travel to a hospital for some reason. Maybe, if you have children, especially because this is, early childhood education and 12th house, maybe excuse me, the schools go on lockdown, so your kids are going to be, at home with you, and you're going to have to do the online education with them. This could also be communication having to do with, like I said, siblings, hospitals, or maybe, certificate programs too for like yoga or something like that. But then with Mercury coming into a trine with Gemini, Gemini is your fourth house. And this is, we had our first full set of eclipses in your 10th and in your fourth house. And Gemini being where the north node is, this is your fourth house. This is where you're going. Like, this is your home behind the scenes, right? So maybe there's some type of ending that needs to happen at the home, or maybe there's some type of communication or download or dream that happens to show you where it is that you want to live. Maybe, this could be a prophetic dream, because the 12th house is dreams. Maybe this is a dream about where it is that you're going to move to next, and that's going to be your forever home, and where you're going to hang your head forever and ever, until the day that you're no longer on this planet. So things like that, themes around 12th house and 4th house things, could be going on for you at the end of this week as well. And really, yeah, I would definitely say dreams. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to what's going on in your dreams. Write them down if you can, all week long, really. And especially with these planets moving through your 12th house of Aquarius. So that is the forecast for all 12 signs. And I hope that you like, share, subscribe. Maybe if you watched all the way to the end, you like what you see. So again, all the links are going to be below, and I hope you have a great week. Take care.